there's a lot of songs that have gotten me through really, really tough times.
Usually, I would rather not have to. I usually don't have to show a very vulnerable side. So my safe space is actually my room. I do see the campaigns and stuff working, but I feel like people really aren't that receptive to it.
When I talked about a lot of people bottling up their emotions, catharsis is the tap that opens it up.
As a whole society, we have to get rid of this stigma.
Welcome to Together, a Shared Concern, Episode 6, Arts, Campaign and Activism. I'm Ethan Seow. I'm from CABCY, Coalition Against Bullying for Children and Youth. And we're here gathered to really have this final episode talking about what we can do to actually solve it together as a shared responsibility. To start this whole conversation again, because last round we talked about how the authority already started the whole journey by saying that, look, bullying is bad. We have placed an act to say that, you can regulate this. However, on the other side, we had the youth who did honestly share that it's a pretty okay fix in terms of temporary, but it might worsen the situation for everybody because the bullies might get worse. And I think this is where we need to start talking about what we can do as a collective to be able to solve this. Because at the end of the day, every bullying is different, every single scenario is different, and just coming down hard on people in terms of rules and authority might not solve the problem. And I think this is where I would love to just get Zhang, our resident filmmaker. Zhang wrote and produced a wonderful film called Fairyvale that really talks about bullying. And I would like for him to share a bit more about why do you think having a voice and setting a whole film up just to be able to talk about bullying, why does that matter?
Today we uncovered a lot about how the bullying situation is a very, very complex one. And there are so many ways of looking at it, so many ways to approach it. I think the beauty of the arts is that the arts is soft, right? It's not like a hard rule or a hard arrow out into the open, and how once an arrow once fired cannot be retrieved. The arts have a way of expressing things for its complexity, for its paradoxes, for its uncertainty. The arts have a way of having opposing voices within an art form. Aside from me as a filmmaker, I'm also a film educator. I teach visual storytelling at Republic Polytechnic. And one of the most wonderful things that I experience as a teacher is that when I give my students the empowerment to tell their own stories, in one semester we did one on bullying. And I'll tell the students, you don't have to use or tell accepted narratives about bullying. Tell us your own stories about bullying. And in their own voices, the youth came out with certain stories that kind of astound me. I have one student that made a film about how a girl who was bullied decided to bake a cake for the bully so that she won't be bullied. I have another student who told a story about how when she watched her friend being bullied, she joined the bully to bully her friend. These are all very, very difficult conversations about the reality of bullying and how people get out of it. And I think from a art therapy narrative, which I would ask Esther more later as well, you could see how the arts has this very interesting way of uncovering insights, uncovering existing unaccepted narratives, but to allow for actual conversations to be expressed. So I think the arts allow that space for it. And as an advocate for storytelling, for social causes, I think this is a soft alternative, or rather a soft addition to the many possible solutions to the bullying problem.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Zhang. I'd like to swing the questions back to the youth, right? It goes back to the concept of safety and safe space. Do you feel like you have the space to voice out your issues with bullying in your day-to-day life? And if you have, where do you go?
If I experience bullying or I see someone else getting bullied, I wouldn't really tell my parents because they can't do anything. But I will go see a therapist because they know how they can talk to me and they understand how I feel. I can also talk to a counselor because they might be able to do something to help in the school, since they are part of the school, so they can they can talk to the principal and see what they can do.
So there is some safe spaces for you to go to. Sadly, it might not be home, but there are some spaces that you can reach out to. Aloysius, you seem to have something to share?
Okay, so for me personally, I actually have several safe spaces to go to whenever I have concerns that I want to express. So one such example is my friends like Tai Long, and then my family members, etc. Because they give really good advices, and I can really, because they know me for a period of time already, so they really understand me and they know what's the best approach for me and the best plan for my next step.
And Tai?
Usually, I would rather not have to. I usually don't like to show a very vulnerable side. So my safe space is actually my room, where I just where I can totally relax and know that it's a space where I feel safe and can get ready without having anxiety or having to worry about what's going to happen next.
That's wonderful. Any of the ladies?
Personally, my safe space, like Thai, is also my room, or just writing in a diary, and sitting with my own thoughts will help me process what I'm going through and my situation. And usually, just like Jess, I don't really go to my parents to talk about such things, but rather I would talk to my older sister about it, because I feel like she can relate to it, she will understand it better, because in terms of age, we're closer, and maybe in terms of school experiences and just overall life experiences, it's more similar. So I think she would be able to understand me better, and that's why I go to her when I need to talk about such things.
That's wonderful. So at least you also have someone at home who supports you on this. Have you ever found that somebody's lyrics, music, art form, something like this, help connected you and help you feel safe?
Okay, so music is a big part of my life, and I basically can't live without music, so I listen to it when I commute on the bus, the train, even in my dad's car. And a lot of what I listen is really based on my mood. So if I'm feeling happy, I'll listen to a happy song. When I'm feeling down or I just need something to cheer me up, I would always put on songs that have more meaningful lyrics, or lyrics that are made to motivate the listener. And it's really, there's a lot of songs that have gotten me through really, really tough times, because these lyrics just really resonated with me and gave me sort of hope that things will get better, and there will be better days. Yeah.
So I think what's really interesting is, as a person who grew up, I've also experienced personally that music was actually the thing that kept me going, right? So through school, through everything, being able to discover music that supports me and understands me, I love it, and it's my safe space, right? And when I found people who loved it too, that connection brought me out of a lot of the bullying that I experienced in school. And I think that's also part of the thing, right? Where we talk about this thing where it's an ephemeral space where arts, all these conversations can be had, can allow us to connect with new people, whether it's over the internet or whether is it in shared activities or the arts, where we can explore this. And I think this is where I will lead back to Esther, who is an art therapist. What have you seen were the transformative elements of the arts in terms of helping people who have been bullied, find a way out of where they were?
I actually resonate very well with Zhang when he shared about how he made his film and how his students would use storytelling to actually bring about their own experiences of what bullying is all about. In my work with victims of bullying, I have seen them make artworks from face mask, paper mache face mask, and they would paint the face, and it was usually very gory and dark and brown, and then they would punch it even sometimes. But sometimes they will have red coming out from the eyes, red coming out from the nose, and then behind the face mask, they would paint it all red. Stuff like this, and it's very expressive, a vivid expression of how they're feeling inside out. And brown has always been a very common color used because they really feel like poop. And even during my during therapy, we also do stuff like we do sand therapy. I do sand therapy too. So I have a sandbox where they're allowed to play with the sand and they put figurines and make stories there. But I've got a client who had been bullied since he was primary 1. By then, when he came to see me, he was already primary 5, primary 6. And one time, he didn't get enough of the sandbox. And what he asked was, can I add water? And I said, yeah, you can add water. So he added water. He started adding water. And he discovered he can make mud from that water. And he started making volcanoes from the water. And he started making and mud coming through. And they piled stack like poop coming up. I was like, hey, that looks like a... And he looked at me and it's like, a poop making machine you're making? It's like, I feel like shit. And then sessions after sessions, he was making that. He just came into the room and just made that and made that. But each time it got better and better. Until one time he said, can I throw it on the wall? And I'm like, if you want to, but let me put plastic on the wall first. So I put plastic on the wall, and guess what he did? He actually threw the mud on the wall. After about 8-9 sessions, he started throwing them at the wall. The minute he threw on the wall, I started realizing, oh my gosh, I've seen a new face. He's never had that relief on his face before. And it got better and better and better. That was his story. And that was about 10 years ago. But you see, bullying hasn't changed. It's still happening in school. But I'm hoping that, more school teachers and more parents will be able to stand up for their children and come forward and help the child be the voice and speak up for the child when they have no words. But in art therapy, it is when there's no words. And you can resonate with the feeling, and you can let the expression come forth.
Can I just add on a little bit? I think in a way, art is that safe space that
It is the safe space.
that doesn't require something external. It's that allowance for us to go inside, and without the need for somebody else to help us. It's that little thing, be it music that we can go to, be it going to a rage room and hitting on something, be it messing up a sand project. Is that little inner space that we can go to for us to express without judgment. And maybe it can be a healing process as well.
Yes,
because once it is out, very often I also know of teachers or parents who say you can't make things like this because this is depressing. But sometimes they don't understand that why are things expressed in a certain way? Why do we listen to a certain kind of music? When I was young, I have friends who listen to heavy metal. They go like, why are you listening to such negative stuff? But sometimes we need that outlet. And once it is out, we can shut off the CD, turn to our parents and turn to our work and just have a better version of ourselves to continue.
I think that's wonderful, right? We talked about this as, arts as being the space for you to have. I think the word that we're referring to eventually is this word called catharsis. For youths, do you all know this word well? Catharsis. Okay, so one of you nodded, the rest of you look confused. Okay, cool. The reason why we talk about arts, campaigns, and activism is I think the a lot of the parts that we need to be able to start solving bullying requires us to strengthen the individual. And when we talk about strengthening the individual as part of the method of shared concern, we talk a lot about helping the individuals find their safe space and their space of empowerment. And when we go back to those words about catharsis, catharsis is one of the most empowering feelings you ever have when you're allowed to do the things that you're not allowed to because other people don't like it. Like, for example, if you make a sad face at home and somebody's unhappy with you, and therefore you cannot make sad faces at home, suddenly when you have a safe space to be sad all you want, throw mud on the wall, do anything you want, that catharsis is beautiful. I think you guys can have an understanding of what this means, right? Like when you're bottling it all up, and we talked I'll talk about this all the way back in like episode 1 and 2, right? Where I talked about a lot of people bottling up their emotions. Catharsis is the tap that opens it up. This is why arts is a very important way of getting people to have catharsis. And I think I want to go also to Youth and the Law, right? Which is the book that you wrote, that you came together to create. That's a form of art. because you're not just throwing jargons, you're not just throwing a bunch of things for people to try to understand, hopefully one day, but you're trying to connect with people, which is actually a form of art form as well. And I kind of want to know what inspired this and what is keeping you going down this path as well to be able to solve this, if you don't mind.
That is the question that I ask myself. Why do I keep doing this every time? It's just a labor of love, let me tell you that. Because it's not just the writing alone, it's the gathering of the information, it's putting it all together, and you won't believe this, the proofreading, yeah? You see, sometimes you see the words that are not there. So, yes, that book, I think, is really one labor of love from all the women and some men. We got a lot of help from our men lawyers too, yeah? Look, we are a human body, you know. We need the support of our male colleagues as well. So don't forget that just because I'm a woman activist, it doesn't mean that, you know, I do not or I don't like my male colleagues. No. It's important that we know how to do what we call strategic partnerships, right? So you young folks, I think, are quite good at that too. So this is something that I feel is so important, that just because you are, you know, you are part of this coalition, which I think is a great job you all are doing, you know. It's wonderful that we have this organization, and it is mentioned in the book, which is why I feel that as this organization, I really wish it to grow big and to grow strong and to be the resource that people go to, right?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ann. And with that, we would like to go to kind of like the next phase to talk about campaigns, right? And Poyok has something to share about a campaign that CABCY had done.
Yeah, some years back, we were involved in a project with the Youth Special Olympics, and Thai was part of it. Yeah, so we were invited, and the theme was inclusion. So we were invited to talk about bullying. And then we conducted a very short workshop where they had to paint masks, face masks. And we talked about bullying and what it does to them. And we talked to them about, you know, thinking about how they felt when they were being bullied. So they painted. And it was really awful faces. Like you could really see the contortion. They can see the colors, the use of colors and all, and how dark it is and all. And after that, we gave them time to come out on stage to share. And the few who shared, they were crying. You know, they were really crying because they talked about how they felt. You know, that behind, you know, that mask, that's them, but then in front, you know, they couldn't express it, but with that mask, they were able to. Maybe Thai can share a bit about it, because he was very young then. I think he was like, what, 11, 12? Yeah. And he was part of the project. Yeah.
Thai, would you like to share a bit?
Okay, so the project, okay, for that small mask making workshop, what I remember of it was that it was actually a lot of people showing off how they would see themselves or other people stressed. So in that way, they could express themselves through a form of art, like as mentioned just now. Also, at the end of the project, if I remember right, we had everyone throw their masks in the air, so to like signify them letting go of their stress.
Yeah, they break free, so they threw. But this was a project that we were hoping to bring to schools, right? And Esther and I, we had this vision that when the students paint that mask, we wanted a wall, you know, to declare, to speak up for the students, how they feel. But then the pandemic came. So that was the end, and we have not brought it back. But it will be a good thing to come back in to do this, you know, so that we can go through the schools and we can bring out awareness. And also maybe we can help them to set the culture for what bullying, you know, is about.
Talking about that in terms of campaigning and things like this, I think on the legal side, I'm actually quite curious on Victor. With Victor, have you seen any effective, campaigning for a more inclusive and a more, understanding space, even through the legal groups or the legal side of things, the legal society or things like this, that can be of help to, even bullying?
I have seen initiatives by the Law Society and also where they actually encourage, for instance, like young lawyers or people experiencing a workplace harassment to actually speak up about these issues. And they have actually provided certain hotlines. I think there are certain avenues for people to actually make complaints or actually just to have some sort of therapy where people can actually address these issues from a safe space. And it's slowly changing the culture in that people are starting to view the fact that bullying is no longer acceptable in our society today.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because in the past they used to have this culture, especially in legal culture, where you're expected to grind. When you're a new lawyer, you're expected to grind, expected to work hard. Getting harassed or getting scolded by your superiors is a norm. However, I've seen a change in the attitude of people nowadays, where they actually view this as not acceptable and it's something that they actually want to stand up for.
Oh, that's amazing. And
so I mean, I do see how this has actually changed in today's landscape.
I think it's great. I got goosebumps. Because if you can imagine that it affects the adults, people at the workplace, it does trickle down to, because they're parents themselves, it does trickle down to their children, into the youths, where every person that you actually campaign to support and take care of, and going against bullying, not the bullies, but bullying as a behavior, you're actually creating a safer, a more secure future for all of us by really encouraging things to be more inclusive. I think this is where back to the youth. I do have a question regarding, do you see something lacking in terms of the conversation or at least the elements? I know you guys are part of the coalition, so therefore you guys have more conversations around this. But do you see that there is still there's still a gap in terms of the campaigns and the activism in this area? Do you feel like your peers know where to turn to and what to turn to?
Okay, I mean, honestly, I do see like the campaigns and stuff working, but I feel like people really aren't that receptive to it because they feel like, why should I care about this? It doesn't really affect me for most people lah. So maybe it can help if we show that someone is relating to them, or or maybe they don't realize that it actually affects them.
Great, thank you for that.
Looking wider as like a whole society, I think there's still a problem of stigma, of like reaching out and trying to get help. Because even though the act itself of just talking about your problems to other people and trying to find help so that you can get yourself out of this situation is good, but I think there's still a lot of stigma because when people do these things like reaching out for help, I think it might not be that people directly tell them that it's a sign of weakness, but they themselves already have this preconceived notion and they think that, I'm weak if I do this. So I think that as a whole society, we have to get rid of this stigma because otherwise it's not going to be good for anyone and no one's going to be willing to completely reach out so that they can help themselves.
That's great. Thank you.
I think just touching on to what the two said is really more on, I think there's a lack of like empathy and just connectivity because they might not think that, this might not happen to me, or like we're kind of changing, but like I kind of don't have anything to do with this, so I'm not really going to listen to those assembly talks or whatever. And in terms of the stigma thing, I think it's also really, they can't really see past that. Sometimes they, as we went back from episode 1, like people have different definitions of bullying, so they might have trouble trying to step out and be more open to how other people might view what bullying is and realize that, this person is struggling and I should help them, rather than like, it's really nothing, like you're being dramatic or something. And I think that's what's really lacking, is that we need to learn to like connect more with people on that.
I do have a question. Do you feel like if there were more concrete steps that might not have to include authority or telling the teacher that you guys could have to be able to support someone, would that be something that you would look forward to being able to have? Like for example, if you're told you do not have to directly jump in front of the bullet for the person, you don't have to do all these things. But what you can do is simply drop a message to the person and let them know, hey, look, I see what you're going through. You're not alone. If there were very specific steps that were given to you to take this way, would that help in terms of you feeling more empowered to support the people who are bullied?
Personally, yes, that will definitely help, because I think, as mentioned before, a lot of people, they don't dare to stand up for the victims themselves. So such smaller ways of empowerment would definitely help people to be more willing to help the victim and stand up for the victim. But also on the other hand, I also do feel like, as Jing Ting mentioned just now, even if we do give such information to people, it's all a choice in whether we decide to listen, whether we decide to actually put it into action if we meet this situation. Yeah, so I think it will definitely help, but it also all depends on whether the students are actually willing to, or they'll just listen to it but don't actually use it in their lives. Yeah,
I think this is where talking about this, arts, campaigns, activism, everything that we do today, to talk about this, even this video that you're watching right now, there's only so much we can do from outside, right? We are working really hard to have this communication, have this conversation, even with to give you all the skills listed out in a beautiful point form, even with Youth and the Law book, to teach people more about what you can do on the legal aspects and how you take care of yourself. There's only so much we can do. But at least as more people listen to this, we can manage the stigma, manage the fact that, it is hard to understand. Then came the question of, can the authority help us? What can the authority do? They've already put their chop on it. What is actually happening is right now is still having a trickle-down effect, right? Where it's still trickling down before the right actions are taken on the ground. And that's why we went the opposite direction and went activism and arts and campaigns, where we talk about how we use the softer approach to go bottoms up again, where we allow kids to actually explore their emotions, their arts, and what they're feeling on a regular level. Where Zhang talked a lot about, his story and why arts and film is really, really important. And then you guys actually talking about how your safe space and your interaction with arts can help you. And catharsis. Thank you everybody for joining us for all the 6 episodes of Together, a Shared Concern, where we come together to talk about the shared concern of bullying, to take on a shared responsibility to solve it together. Here at CABCY, we are looking forward to being able to provide a digital toolkit to be able to solve the problems of bullying by equipping and empowering each party to be able to know how to solve it. Co-organizer and sponsor CABCY for joining this journey with us. And I would like to thank my own company, Center for Cybersecurity, for co-organizing and sponsoring this as well. We also like to thank Methodist Girls School and the principal for being a huge supporter of this event. And last but not least, we'd like to thank Media Club Room for being a wonderful supporter and being here with us this whole 6 episodes. And with that, I would like to wrap up today's session, and thank you and see you another time.